All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new Star Wars update for you guys today. I will have a DC update later today, so you can look for that if you're looking for some DC information. But I wanted to get the Star Wars update first. And, you know, it's interesting. I am a massive Star Wars fan. I mentioned this in my last video. And, you know, Star Wars and Disney in general is kind of in the same boat as what's going on with Warner Brothers Discovery and the DC stuff. And most of the Star Wars stuff that has come out over the last 3 to 4 years, well, not even that, since the prequel trilogy or the sequel trilogy started, it's been run by nothing other than identity politics and politics in general with Disney. And in fact, a lot of that's been driven by Kathleen Kennedy. And she was supposedly going to be fired, but we're going to find out that this specific identity politic agenda is going to continue to move forward, and that Star Wars is turning away from its fan base, which was mainly men. Now, I'm not saying that the women are a bad thing. I actually liked Rey's character, but as a fan, knowing what they're doing with the sequel, and there's some things coming up that we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you some pictures here in a few minutes of some of the news. Some of the stuff that's going on with Rey and what they're going to do, not real pleasing. In fact, you know, as a fan of Star Wars, what I wanted to see growing up with these films, more than anything, I wanted to see Luke create a new Jedi Academy, which they did in the books, and it would have been nice to see them translate that into feature films. Instead, they turned him to an old, scared man who had lost his way, so he had to be pushed aside for Rey to come in, and we're going to see just how far Rey is going to come in, and this is going to get interesting. But let's look at some general Star Wars news first to start off with here. So the first thing I want to look at here is this James Mangold story. So he is writing a story that's going to go to the birth of the Force. In fact, this is going to go, you know, Old Republic, way before the Old Republic. So this is going to be interesting. This is going to be the beginning of Star Wars. And it says, James Mangold says his Star Wars film is inspired by Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments. It's a chance to tell the entire story of its own, the birth of the Force. Where did it come from? How was it found? Who was the first Jedi? That's pretty fascinating. All right, so the second photo is is going off of the first one. It says, James Mangold will direct a Star Wars film in an era called Dawn of the Jedi. And it will be a film about the origins of the Jedi, taking place 25,000 years in the past. So this is going to be a whole new time period that Star Wars has never explored. So this will be fun. All right, now this is getting into some of the identity politics that I was talking about earlier. You know, Rey had some backlash because of her being a Mary Sue. And it has nothing to do with the character itself. Well, I take that back. It has nothing to do with the girl who played Rey. It has to do with the way they wrote the character. It has to do with how she was shoehorned in there. But this has only gotten worse with time. We saw it with Reva in the Obi-Wan show. That show was supposed to be about Obi-Wan, but they made it more about Reva and her backstory. Now we're getting this again here. And again, the whole Reva thing, it had nothing to do with the actress that played her. It had nothing to do with the fact that she was black. It had nothing to do with any of those things. It had to do that they shoehorned a woman into this story when it was supposed to be about Obi-Wan. And like I said, there is a cut of this movie out there that is, or the show that is so much better than the show itself that gets rid of a lot of that stuff. But they're doubling down on some things here. So Jodie Turner-Smith, who plays one of the main characters of Star Wars Acolyte, went on stage to call Star Wars a patriarchal, men-focused franchise, and that the Acolyte aims to change that narrative. All right, so yeah, I certainly have some problems with this because you can't fundamentally change what something is. It is what it is. And if it's mainly a male audience, you can't come in and just all of a sudden switch it to be female. There have been plenty of female characters in Star Wars. If you look at the Rebels show, there were plenty of females in there. If you look at the original Star Wars, there was Leia, there was Mon Mothma. There have been plenty of women in these shows and in the franchise in general. And that's fine if they want to put more women in it for the Acolyte, but they're not doing it for the purposes of the story. They're doing it because they want, it's a political agenda. It's not really about what they say it is. They're just trying to shove this stuff artificially down people's throats, which is not a good thing. Now, here's the other part of this that was funny, because somebody posted online that, you know, with Rey starting a new Jedi Academy, is Luke going to be there to guide her? And I jokingly replied that no, he won't be there because she's a woman and she doesn't need a man to help her. And I said that kind of as a joke. But then we look here, and this comes directly from Kathleen Kennedy herself. Will Luke Skywalker return in Daisy Ridley's new Star Wars movie? Kathleen Kennedy says, I don't know if we'll spend a lot of time in flashbacks or Force Ghost, but certainly the spirit of what he represents to her is going to be significant. Translation, she doesn't need Luke. This is the exact problem that people have with what's going on with Star Wars, and they just don't get it. That is the project I am least excited for. Now, a lot of people have been hating on The Mandalorian Season 3, saying it's all over the place. And I've been saying that about The Mandalorian from the beginning. I have my reviews from the last couple of seasons on my channel under the Star Wars tab. You guys can actually go watch my review of those episodes. And what's crazy about this is it's always been all over the place. It's never been like a coherent, straightforward storyline. They're almost, every week it was a different story. It was a one-off almost, except for the last couple of episodes in each of the seasons. Now they go on to tell us that The Mandalorian is now making the same mistake The Witcher made by making the show about more than just Din Djarin. Execs say that they view it as the Mandalorians, plural, now plural. Huge mistake, and it's why Season 3 is getting torched. It's not just why Season 3 is getting torched, but it's definitely more about Bo-Katan than it is Din Djarin. They've kind of switched what this is about. And there are some rumors out there, and I don't know how true this is, but he apparently had a blow up on the screen with, you know, the filmmakers, and he may not be coming back after this season. But this just goes to show you that they have lost their way with what they're doing with Star Wars. They're not focused on the stories. It's more about identity politics. So how do you guys feel about all this news coming out? They are not so much focused on the stories as they are about the identity politics. And this is just Disney's MO at this stage. It's what they do. And it's kind of disappointing. As long as you craft a good story, it doesn't matter who the person is. It doesn't matter what their gender is. It doesn't matter what their color is. What matters at the end of the day is telling the story the way it needs to be told without forcing these artificial things in there. Those are my 2 cents on this. I will be covering Star Wars stuff going forward as well, so I'll continue to gather the news and bring it to you guys. I do appreciate the support. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new videos go up.